everybody, welcome to Big Balls Fantasy Football, the only show with powerful picks, sexy superfans, and that's really fun. I'm your host, 20-year fantasy veteran, Greg Reifsteck.
And I'm your co-host, Jenilee, and this is Zoe, and I've been playing fantasy for about 10 years, and together we are the beauty
and the beast
of fantasy football experts.
So, it's playoff time in fantasy. We're getting really close to the playoffs in the NFL, but there's one team that's not going. That's our Bears, that's for sure.
Definitely. The Bears, if you've been watching this season, you obviously know that they've been looking pretty terrible all season long. And it was just that they were mathematically eliminated
finally
this week. But we all knew they weren't going anyway.
Yeah. So in honor of an actual team that is going to the playoffs, I decided to go college this week. My folks retired to Oregon years ago, and I became a Ducks fan. And they're in up against the Florida State Seminoles. They're in the Rose Bowl. I might go. Who knows? If I can get a ticket. And then hopefully they'll be playing Alabama in the championship if Alabama can win against their team. But and also congratulations to Marcus Mariota for becoming a finalist in the Heisman Derby. So that's my actual playoff news.
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess I'm just wearing my Bears gear because we only have a few more games left, and then it's full time on to Bulls and Blackhawks, even though I've been paying a lot more attention to those two teams.
Yeah. So let's talk about, we might as well just dive into the Thursday night debacle against Dallas. Just really more just piss poor defense. They finally were showing Mel Tucker at the end of the game, and the announcers were finally blaming him on national TV, which was really nice to see, I thought.
Yeah, and it's just a real lack of consistency. I mean, for a few games during the season, they would play terrible in the first half, and then they'd kind of start to show that they could do at least something in the second half. But by that point, they were being blown out. Yeah. Now, the last couple of weeks, it's been reversed. They've, been in it in the first half. They were only down by 7 points going into the halftime. It was 14-7, a game they were still very much in. And then they're tanking it in the second half. So there's just no consistency, as you said. Defense gave up a ton of yards to DeMarco Murray. Romo had a good game. He's got the stats here.
Go ahead. Go Cowboys. Look at what we let our defense do.
So Romo had 205 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Des Bryant had 6 for 82 yards, no touchdowns for him. Beasley actually didn't help you in fantasy at all because I bet none of you had him.
Right.
He had 42 yards, but he did have 2 of Romo's touchdowns.
Who's Beasley? I never heard of him.
And DeMarco Murray had 179 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, and also 9 for 49 yards receiving. So the Cowboys just did their thing.
Yep.
The offense looked like they had a little bit of spark. They were trying to come back. Looked like maybe they would come back. They scored a couple touchdowns pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But obviously didn't end up happening, and that was that.
Maybe they were playing with a little bit of fire in their belly because we did lose one of our players this week. Unfortunately, we lost B. Marsh in the first quarter of the game. We were watching the game right here at Big Ball Central, and it was just horrible. He got a knee right to the back, and he ended up getting 2 fractured ribs and a collapsed lung. Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was taken from the game in an ambulance, and he's going to be okay. But, that's kind of that. With, he's on IR for the rest of the season, which thank goodness they put him on IR because, I just kept thinking, what's the point of them saying, oh, we'll see, week to week. I just thought, that's absolutely ridiculous. There's no reason the Bears aren't doing anything this season.
Right.
They can't do anything this season, so might as well just bring him back for next year.
Yeah, so, Wilson might get a few more catches now. I mean, he was one of the guys getting a few catches later in the game. Oh, let's look at Cutler, 341 yards, 2 touchdowns, and, of course, he had 1 pick. And we called it at the end of the game, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's really to the point now that Cutler cannot go a game without a turnover this season, at least. I don't know. Maybe he's gone one game this season without a turnover. But, it's either an interception or a fumble. And, of course, he did have an interception.
We were watching. It was right at the end of the game was the last drive. And we're like, watch him throw a pick. And sure enough, right in the end, we're like, yay, there you go, Jay. Way to go. That's our Jay. And, of course, right in the press the next week, Trustman, Jay's our guy, and we're not going to, there was the whole rumor that there was the one game they were actually going to put him in. Or rather, they wanted to take him out so bad, but they didn't want to. They don't trust their backup. Which, why the hell do you keep that backup if you don't trust him? It's just ridiculous. Why do we even have him if you're not going to put him in and give him reps when your team is just so screwed up right now?
Yeah, that's the thing. There were a couple games that they should have put Clausen in because the blowout was just so bad.
Yeah.
But again, I think another reason they're not putting Clausen in is because they paid Cutler so much money. So I think in their mind, they're thinking, if he's healthy, if he's able to be on the field, he needs to be on the frickin' field because he's getting paid the most out of any NFL player this season, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not like a situation like in Cleveland, which we might as well talk about that just briefly. Didn't even plan on it, but Johnny Football is starting this week. Go pick him up if you want to risk, but I'm sure you're going to get some rushing yards out of him. But
that's a situation that the Browns are still in the fight for the playoffs.
Yeah.
They have not been eliminated yet. So they're trying to do something, switch it up, that they think is best for the team to have the best chance of winning these remaining games. And, we'll see.
Yeah. One other piece of news, shocker this week. We did a balls profile on this guy, Peyton Manning, Mr. Guaranteed to get you 40 to 50 points a week. And, we called it here, watch out. He ended up getting no touchdowns and only like 176 yards. When would you ever think you'd see a week where Peyton Manning didn't get any touchdowns at all?
Yeah, it was crazy. I was playing against him in fantasy, and I had to win that league in order to get in the playoffs. So I was ecstatic. I was super happy that he had, I think his worst game of the season for sure.
Yeah. I was playing against him in the work league, but I just got beat by a few other players. But yeah, I was pretty darn excited. I stopped by the Broncos bar and I'm watching, and C.J. Anderson's getting me touchdowns, and I'm like, go C.J.
Yeah.
Keep running the ball. So this week, of course, is the playoffs. We're in week 15 of the NFL, and everybody's in the playoffs this week, no matter what league you're in, unless you didn't make the playoffs, of course. And I made it into it in one league, Trash Bowl 15, I mentioned on our Facebook page. It's the league that Neil has been running as commissioner for 15 years, and I won last year, and I'm in the playoffs this year. I'm going in, I think, in the third seed, so I'm pretty happy. How about you?
Yeah, I made it in one out of my 3 leagues. I was very, very close in one of the other leagues, but didn't end up winning and didn't end up getting in that one. But I did get in one of them, going in 4th place, so we'll just see. I'm up against the top guy in that league. So
why don't you tell them exactly how you made it into the playoffs?
Well, I made it in. It was a situation where there were a couple things that could have happened, but I definitely had to win, which did happen last week. And either Greg or who he was playing against had to lose. So the loser of his game was going to be knocked out, and it happened to be Greg. He lost. So
he leapfrogged over me by 94 points in the standing. By 94 points, came up with the same record. But the reason I bring that up, it goes to show you, points count.
Oh, absolutely.
Points
I'm always saying
really
that if I'm losing, in a week that I know I'm going to lose, I'm not going to win, I still want my players scoring points. So
because in the end, it comes out. I was sitting pretty in 3rd place at one point in 2nd. It's my work league that I brought her into, and all of a sudden I'm not in the playoffs, and all it took was 3 losses in a row, and that was it.
Yeah.
So, okay, this week we are going to do the same thing we did last week. We're going to give you 2 go hards, 2 go softs, situational starts with your players, finding out what defenses they're going up against, and telling you which in which scenarios you should actually really be depending on those points, and in which scenarios you're probably going to get a lot less points than you might expect. Don't forget to watch us on social media. You're watching us on youtube.com/BigBallsFootball. You can catch us at our hub, Big Balls Fantasy Football, and watch all of our past shows and watch all of our Sunday Fun Day shows and watch us out with fans. We're probably going to squeeze one more of those in, of course, at the Bears Bar, because we're going to have to, tough one more out there up against the Vikings. That one's going to suck.
Well, I won't be here for that game, but he will be here for that game. So I will be on my Christmas vacation. But
then we're going to have to do a Monday Night Football spectacular next week.
We might have to.
Yeah.
So we will see. But absolutely check us on Facebook too, facebook.com/BigBallsFantasyFootball. And our Twitter is @BigBallsFball. If you have any lineup questions, if you're debating someone's on your bench and you're not sure which guy to put in your playoffs, let us know. And just a really quick update, because it happened today. Quarterback Cam Newton of the Panthers did get in a car accident. They said no serious injuries, but he does have slight fractures to his lower back, I believe it is.
Yes, it's the lower back.
So I don't think he'll be playing this week. I'd be surprised.
They said they reported he's definitely not starting this week.
So there you go with that one.
So no Cam Newton for you. Not that, except for last week, he wasn't really burning up the fantasy stats anyway. But
no, but that also affects you with Calvin Benjamin and Greg Olsen.
Exactly.
And, so you have to think of those situations as well. That might kind of mess you up there.
Definitely. Okay, let's get started with our picks, and Jenelee's first this week.